Hey everyone, long time no see. I really appreciate your patience. Here are the materials for today's tutorial, and of course I'll link my yarns in the description down below. Let's get started. Start with your main color yarn and your device. Make a slip knot and attach it to your hook. And you're basically going to chain by yarning over, pulling through the loop like so, and you're going to repeat until your chain is as long as the width of your device. And let me just go ahead and do that. So I made 34 chains, and this is obviously going to be different for every device and every yarn, and my yarn's a little bit on the thinner side. And so when I put it onto my device, it's basically exactly the width of the device. And the reason why we're doing close to the width is because when we crochet, it's actually going to stretch out a little bit. And so if you want to make it a little bigger, I guess you could do maybe a centimeter extra, but I recommend just sticking with the width of your device. Now take your chain and you're going to look for the third loop from your hook. So 1, 2, 3. Into that third loop, you're going to do a half double crochet, and you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that third loop, yarn over, pull through that loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and you're just going to do half double crochets in each chain until you reach the end. So once you get to the end, you're going to chain 2, and you're going to chain 2 at the beginning of every single row, so please keep this in mind. Turn your work over and look for the first stitch right here, and you're going to just do half double crochets all over again, and just a simple row of half double crochet. So just do it all across the row. Once you're done, chain 2 to start the new row, and that's pretty much the gist of the main body, and it's super easy. You're just going to do a bunch of half double crochet rows, and essentially you're going to make a really long panel until once you fold it in half, it should cover the device that you're crocheting a cover for, and in the next clip I'll show you what I mean. So I've done a bunch of rows, and as you can see, it's just a really long panel, and when I fold it in half, and when I put my device kind of on top of what I have, it should be slightly longer. So I have to do a little more work, but this is what I'm talking about. It should encompass the entirety of your device, and you can make it longer than your device if you wish. So I'm going to do a couple more rows and get back to you when I'm done. So I decided to stop at 60 rows, and it's the perfect length for my device. So now that we've finished the main body, we're going to work on the flap that goes over top of the pouch. Before we start crocheting, we're going to take our 2 stitch markers, and this is optional, but I highly recommend as it really helps for when we assemble our pouch later. So what I'm going to do is, with my stitch marker, I'm going to mark the edges, the top edges of our project here. And this helps later on when we connect the sides together. So chain 2, turn your work, And to start our new row, we're actually going to do a decrease half double crochet, and you're basically going to yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, but don't pull all the way through the 3 loops. You're going to insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through the stitch. Now you should have 4 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on your hook, and now you've done a decreased stitch. So now you're going to do regular half double crochets until you reach the end and you have 2 stitches remaining. So there are 2 stitches left in this row, and again we're going to do a decreased stitch and stitch the 2 together, and that is it for our flap row. And you're going to repeat this row as many times as you want until you get the flap length that you desire. And just as a reminder, you're going to do decrease stitch at the beginning and end of each row. So chain 2 and start your new row. And I'll meet you once I get the length that I want. So I've done 7 rows and I'm going to stop at my 8th. And if you're going to add a button, you're going to add the hole at your last row. So chain 2. And first you're going to count how many stitches you have at the top. So what we're going to do essentially is to crochet to the middle of the row and then make our hole there. So I'll meet you once I get to the middle. So I'm at the middle here. So I'll be using a medium-sized button here, and for a medium button, you're going to skip 2 stitches and chain 2. And so I'm just going to go back 1 stitch to be in the middle. And so I'm gonna just chain 2, okay, and then skip these 2 stitches, and then continue crocheting on that 3rd stitch like so. So then we have this nice hole for the button. However, if you're going to use a smaller button like this, you're only going to need 1 hole because this is going to be way too big for this button here. So in your case, you're just going to only chain 1 and then skip 1 stitch and then continue crocheting on the next. So once you have that hole, you're just going to crochet to the end. And fasten off. So this is what you should have so far, a pouch with the nice flap here and the buttonhole. And now we're going to connect these sides together, and as you can see, this stitch marker is extremely useful that we can use to line up these sides together. To stitch the side, you're going to take your yarn, make a slip knot, and you're going to insert your hook into the bottom of the panel like this, and also the stitch right below your stitch marker like this, or right at your stitch marker, I guess. And then you're going to take your slip knot and feed it through the 2 panels so that your yarn is kind of connecting it together. And we're going to slip stitch to the end of our pouch. And so how you do it is just insert your hook into the end of the 2 panels, yarn over through both panels, and then through the loop on your hook. And make sure to line up the stitches on your pouch. And you're just going to continue slip stitching up to the end and I'll see you when I get there. So once you reach the end, you can fasten off. Turn your work to the opposite end and do the same exact thing for this side. Once the two sides are connected, you can flip your work inside out. And you can also take your stitch markers out. Now we're going to work on this pocket portion here, and I'm not going to give you specific dimensions because it's customizable to you. And you're basically going to take your yarn, make a slip knot, and then chain the length that you want for your pocket. And I'm just going to do a general outline of what I want. I'm not going to follow a specific stitch count. So I decided to do a pocket that's about this long, and you're just going to do half double crochets. So if you need a reminder, you're going to half double crochet in the third chain from your hook, and then keep half double crocheting across the chain. And when you're finished, you're going to chain 2, and you're just going to do half double crochets until you get the dimensions of the pocket that you want, and I'll let you know how many I decide to do. I've done 10 rows, and now I'm going to fasten off. I'm going to go ahead and attach the pocket to the main body. However, if you wanted to add some sort of design, you can do it now, but I'm going to do it later. So line it up on your pouch, take a darning needle and your main color yarn, and you're going to insert your needle into the top edge of your pocket, and then we're actually going to work on the surface of this top panel here. And so you're going to insert your hook kind of on the top layer of one of the stitches adjacent to your pocket and feed it through. And I recommend being generous with your yarn. Maybe 2 rounds like this is enough. And I'm just going to cut it. And once you have your yarn through and you're happy with the placement, I recommend making a knot to secure it. Now again, you're going to insert your needle through the pocket like this, and then also through your work, but only on the top edge like this. And you're going to work in this fashion, kind of just going back and forth and in and out like this, working only on the surface of the top panel. And you're going to go around the pocket and fasten off when you are done. So I finished attaching my pocket, and now I'm going to make a knot by inserting my needle into a stitch or a loop, and then put my needle through that loop to secure my knot, and then fasten off. Now at this point, you can do whatever you want with your pocket, and if you want to make a spiral like this, what I did is I did surface crochet, and I won't be demonstrating it in this video, but I'll attach a video in the description. In my case, I'm going to make a bow and attach it to my pocket, and if you're curious to how I'm going to make it, you can stick around. If not, you can skip this portion. I'm going to make a slip knot and attach it to my hook. Then I'm going to make 65 chains. After my chains, I'm going to insert my hook into the second loop from my hook, and then slip stitch, and I'm basically going to slip stitch into every chain until I reach the end. At the end, you can fasten off. And now you can tie your bow. And once you're happy with the bow, you're going to sew it onto the pocket. And I'm going to do it in a similar fashion as we did with the pockets. So I've sewed on the bow to my pocket, and now we're going to outline the top of our flap with our accent color. So take your yarn, make a slip knot, and you're going to find basically the beginning of your flap, and I recommend just like around this corner here. You're going to insert your hook, put the yarn through like so, and you're basically going to slip stitch along the top of your flap, and on the side here you'll see there's like no actual stitches, so you kind of have to improvise a bit here, and just insert your hook at the top edge like so, and you're going to continue throughout the top of the flap. And then when you counter this buttonhole here, for me I did 2 chains, and so I'm going to just do 2 slip stitches into that open space and then continue doing slip stitches. Now when you get to the end of your flap, you're just going to fasten off. And now you have a cute flap. And now the last part is to sew on your button, if you choose to use one, onto the main body, and be careful to line it up to where your hole is. And now the last step is to take your darning needle and weave in all the loose ends to the inside of your work. And that's it for today's tutorial. Please tag me if you ever recreate this project, and leave a like, subscribe, and comment below what else you'd like to see in the future.